An article came out last summer that I've been thinking a lot about recently. Especially, we were talking about prayer today earlier during the show, and how even the last couple months for me, just focusing on prayer has been so difficult. So difficult. There's so many enticing things and thoughts and drama and gossip and ideas to be distracted by or things to look at. So there's an exorcist who's been an exorcist since 1994. It's a Dominican father, Father Francois Dermine in Italy. And he said, we must not undervalue the significance of temptation. Now, this is someone who's an exorcist, casting out demons face to face with the demonic day in and day out. Now, we often think about demonic activity in the devil, and we think of people who are possessed. But here's what Father Dermine said. Father Dermine said, it's not as spectacular as possession, that is temptation, but it's far more dangerous to the soul. He goes on to say to resist temptation is simple. You must avoid the occasions of temptation, of course, and you must have a Christian and spiritual life. You must pray, you must try to behave correctly, and to love the people you meet every day and the people with whom you live. A simple sentence or two of profound wisdom that we should all take seriously from this exorcist, who's been an exorcist since the 1980s. This priest in Italy. Ultimately, this whole show today has been about lifestyle choices. What lifestyle choices are enticing you and perhaps becoming detrimental for your soul? Opening a door to the demonic. If only the demon can just tempt you out of that time of prayer. If only he can just tell you you're not enough. You need this particular item in order to keep up with other people, to keep up with appearances. You need to be esteemed for your body in order to be the woman that you believe you are created to be. We're told all of these lies. But again, Father Dermine, this exorcist, said that although temptation is not as spectacular, those are his words, as possession, it's far more dangerous. So he gives us this guide of how do we avoid these occasions of temptation. He starts, of course, listen to that. Do you hear it? He says, of course, you must have a Christian and spiritual life. So you need to have faith. Maybe you're listening to this show and you think, well, God's a nice thing and I like the things I hear on this show. The topics, the moral precepts. They're great ideas, but perhaps you're not living by them. Perhaps you are not remembering that at our baptism, as baptized Christians, we become like little Christ, and that calls us to a particular type of lifestyle, a spiritual life. And so what does this entail? Well, Father Dermine, the exorcist, says you must pray. You must behave correctly. You must love the people you meet every day and the people with whom you live. Again, this is a lifestyle to be learned and to be lived out. It's a habit. It's something we have to practice and pray for day in and day out to develop the virtue necessary to live this life countering the many temptations that the devil sends our way. We've recently been reading through the book of Job during daily mass. And over the last couple weeks, as we had been reading the book of Job, it's fascinating. Our Lord allows the devil, when the devil wants to tempt Job, this righteous man who loves the Lord says, fine, tempt him, but do everything except kill him. The devil takes away his family members, the work of his hands, the success of his hands, his means, destroys everything around him and still, even his friends walk up to Job and say, what are you doing? How are you still praising the Lord? He continues to have unwavering faith. That's a gift from God, but that's also a habit of a lifestyle that Job, has chosen to maintain for years. So how will you be freed from temptation? By living a sacramental life. I say it so often here on the show, live a sacramental life, a life rooted in the sacraments. This is something that so often my mom, when I was young, taught me and has continued to be emphasized in the teaching of the saints. Pray 30 minutes a day, silent prayer. Receive our Lord Jesus Christ, body, blood, soul, and divinity in the Eucharist as often as you can with reverence. But stay in a state of grace. That's why this reverence is important when approaching Christ in the Eucharist. Show your reverence by being united to Him and worthy to receive Him. You maintain that state of grace, this gift from God, by staying close to the sacraments. When you fall, you go running to confession. Not next month, not 6 months ago, 6 months from now, because we're supposed to go to confession, right? About once a year. Do you do that nightly examination of conscience, examining what you've done well today, how you've grown, how you've started to overcome your own struggles, but also where you're struggling, where you've had those moments of ugliness and temptation, small or big, and acknowledge them. If you're not doing a nightly examination of conscience, it's difficult to pat ourselves on the back and see how we've grown. And that growth is so important, that we're seeing that we are making strides to change and grow in the spiritual life. That acknowledgement of, I didn't pray in the morning today, and I just started my day and didn't even turn toward God. Or maybe I became that nitpicky person criticizing myself and criticizing others. Free yourself from the temptation that this exorcist, Father Francois Dermine, speaks of. Stay in a state of grace. Examine your conscience daily. Stay close to the sacraments and choose to live charitably when interacting with new people you meet each day, and with those pesky people that we're surrounded by day in and day out.